the mess of storms hitting all across the U.S. all at once, with tens of millions of people across the South and Midwest dealing with blizzards, thunderstorms, and some late-breaking word that a tornado, as we speak, is on the ground right now in Louisiana. We're going to have much more coming up in just a minute. Plus, we've got those new charges for the FTX founder in what one prosecutor calls one of the worst financial frauds in U.S. history. What we know about when SBF may be coming back from the Bahamas and whether anybody is going to be able to get their money back now. And the market's pretty psyched about a new inflation report showing a slowdown in how expensive things are getting, what that may mean for tomorrow's key Federal Reserve meeting. Plus, some new video from El Paso of nearly 1,000 migrants waiting to cross the border, highlighting the humanitarian crisis hitting a breaking point. We're going to bring you an NBC News exclusive on why the Biden administration's plan is looking a lot like the plan of his controversial predecessor, Donald Trump. And your very first look at new comments from Jay Leno, his first on-camera interview with our own Hoda Kotb after he got badly burned in a garage fire. Watch.
But suddenly, boom, I got a face full of gas, and then the pilot light jumped and my face caught on fire.
We've got more on that coming up later on in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and right now you've got about 17 million people in the middle of a very destructive, very dangerous winter storm, with one tornado now confirmed in Oklahoma, another suspected tornado hitting Texas, another now on the ground, we think, heading towards Shreveport in Louisiana. More of them may show up later tonight, later in the week. That is the expectation here. So let's bring in what we know at this point, starting in Texas, where all you have to do in some places is just look up. These are different shots of what people saw moving through the skies there today. 5 people were hurt. And check this out. This is what it was like for one person driving nearby. Look at that lightning, the thunder. You can't hear it, but it was there. The driving rain. Not only did people have to go through this, but it was the sound of it, too. The warning sirens, they were everywhere. Then there's the Dallas airport. Remember, this is one of the country's biggest and busiest. People there today had to shelter in place. They had to huddle away from the windows because of the weather. And it's not just Texas. All the schools today in Wayne, Oklahoma are closed because of a confirmed tornado over there. The schools shut down because there's no electricity and obviously the storm damage. Look at this. These shots, you're looking at some neighborhoods from right around that same area. If you move north a little bit, they're dealing with some next-level blizzards. This is Colorado today. You can barely see anything except for snow getting blown around by all that wind. Over in the Midwest, some places are expecting to get at least 20 inches of snow. Check out North Dakota here. You've got snowplow drivers working 12-hour shifts trying to clear the roads. People are having to dig themselves out of waist-deep snow just to get out of their driveways. We're going to get more on the storm's forecast and details on this new tornado with Bill Cairns, who I know is checking that out now. I want to start quickly with Shaq Brewster in Minneapolis because the Midwest, Shaq, is looking at some very icy blizzard conditions, right?
That's right, Hallie. Right now, there's a break in the precipitation, but earlier today, we saw some rain, we saw some wintry mix, and that's why we've been here in front of this pile of salt and sand. We've been seeing the city deploy, send their salt trucks here. We've been watching them get filled up and go across the city because we have that evening commute ahead of ourselves. So they want to make sure that the roads are smooth or are comfortable and safe for drivers as we get into the evening hours. And one thing that they're looking at is what you're seeing in other parts of the country, even in other parts of the state. Other parts of the state expecting up to a foot of snow. But if you look out west, this same system brought Colorado its first blizzard warning that it's seen in nearly 2 years. You look out west, earlier this week, we saw up to 4 feet of snow pummeling some of the west coast states. So this is that same exact system. It's slowly moving across east, and now you're hearing and seeing Minneapolis getting ready for the potential impacts of what they'll face in the overnight hours here, Hallie.
Let me talk more, Shaq, if you can stand by for a second, on what's happening as we speak. And Bill Cairns, this is on you because we got word literally as we were walking into the studio here of a potential tornado in Louisiana. Talk us through what we know.
Well, we know storm chasers have confirmed it's still daylight enough that there's a large tornado that was on the ground over the last 15, 20 minutes. This is the border for Louisiana and Texas. So Greenwood here is in Louisiana. The Interstate 20 marker is here in Texas. Wasco is one of the last towns on Interstate 20 before you go into Louisiana on the Texas side. And it was reported about 5 minutes ago the large tornado was in or right near the town of Wasco. And then they continued this tornado warning as storm is racing about 45 miles towards the northeast. And of course, if it continues on that track on the ground, it would head towards the greater Shreveport area. So this is not just a tornado warning. So there's tornado warnings, and then there's the next level up, which is what they call a particularly dangerous situation tornado warning. When we know for a fact we have a large tornado on the ground, they're telling everyone to get to their shelter. So Shreveport has almost 200,000 people that live in that area. Right now, the sirens are going off. Everyone is grabbing their kids, their pets. They're heading to their storm shelters, or they're heading to their bathrooms, putting mattresses over their heads because they know there's a large tornado on the ground, and it's going to potentially come very close to Shreveport. On radar, it looks like it's going a little bit north of Greenwood, so it looks like it's going to miss you, and hopefully it'll stay north of Shreveport too. But again, a scary situation. We know a large tornado on the ground. It may have already done some really significant destruction. Hopefully no injuries or fatalities. We'll find out in the hours ahead. And we're not done yet either, Hallie. This tornado watch and potential will go through the night tonight, at least through 10 p.m. We'll probably have another tornado watch that'll go after midnight. And then the storm chasers that are out there now, they won't be able to see the storms as well. They'll be nocturnal because of the early sunset, and those will have less of a heads up. And we showed you the pictures earlier. So far today, 4 reports of tornadoes. I think we'll easily double that or triple that during the overnight hours. And the people at risk, greatest risk, is that area from where they are right now with the storms on the Louisiana-Texas border. And then by daybreak, those storms will be over there into areas of Mississippi. So for all our friends in the South, it's a dangerous night. Have your family safety plans in place just in case those tornado warnings go off for your hometown.
You know, we talk so much, Bill, about how tornadoes are obviously deadlier at night when people are sleeping. They may not be alerted to the risk there. I think Shaq Brewster is still with us because you're showing a lot of Texas on that map. And Shaq, we know that down in Texas, it has been a real mess today. It's going to continue to be a mess, as Bill has laid out here. The Walmart's shut down. The Sam's Club's shut down. They are dealing with the thick of it as we speak.
That's right, Hallie, and you have even 5 people who are now hospitalized because of storm-related injuries. You see some of the pictures there that you were showing in the introduction. You see the impact of this storm. Yes, up north you're talking about snow in Colorado, blizzard conditions, but it's the tornado threats that you're seeing, and you saw some of the impact as the tornado, or as the storm, I should say, made its way through Texas. Fort Worth area dealing with reports of tornadoes. Grapevine, Texas area, that's where you had the 5 injuries. They're dealing with the impacts of the storm. You see some of the damage there. Other pictures that we saw, tree limbs on cars. We saw down power lines, especially, which, you know, as we get to the evening hours, that becomes of an increasing concern for folks there. So we're already seeing the impact of what Bill is talking about right now in the Louisiana area. We already saw that impact as it made its way through the Texas area.
Shaquille Brewster, thank you for being with us. Bill Cairns, as always, we appreciate you staying on top of the storm track, the threat that is very real tonight. Appreciate it. In other news now, the so-called crypto king, once described as the J.P. Morgan of the modern era, is now sitting in the Bahamas waiting for extradition to this country on new criminal charges in a truly extraordinary fall from grace and an epic financial collapse. You've got the feds today, and this new indictment now against Sam Bankman-Fried, laying out the 4 kinds of victims of his alleged crimes. First, you've got everyday folks who used FTX.com, his crypto exchange that has now totally collapsed. You've got leaders for his hedge fund, Alameda, anybody who invested in his company, and then, like, the United States because of potential violations of campaign finance laws. This is big deal stuff. He seems to be in real legal trouble. So where is he? He's not in New York with the feds. He's in the Bahamas, just as Congress was hoping he would answer some questions today in Washington. That was a task that was left instead now to the CEO of his now bankrupt company, a guy named John Ray, kind of a company cleanup specialist when it comes to bankrupt businesses like Enron. He stepped in that instance. And now he says, while Enron's crimes were sophisticated, FTX, not so much.
I've just never seen an utter lack of record keeping. They use QuickBooks, a multi-billion-dollar company using QuickBooks.
QuickBooks?
QuickBooks. But this isn't sophisticated whatsoever. This is just plain old embezzlement.
Plain old embezzlement. Tom Winter is outside the courthouse in New York, as he called it there. And Tom, you know, the indictment lays out, and I've been reading through it today, just straight up says that SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, used this company, used FTX, as like a personal piggy bank to do stuff like buy real estate in the Bahamas, a house for himself, for his parents, etc. All on the backs of unwitting people who invested in this crypto company. What is so striking to me is that what is laid out here is not seeming super specific to crypto itself, other than the fact that it's new. This feels a lot like just old-fashioned bad business.
Well, that's exactly right, Hallie. And, this is the biggest prosecutorial office in the country, the home of the financial markets and financial institutions. They're used to seeing alleged big-time fraud. And somebody asked today, how does this compare to the Bernie Madoff case, which the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York prosecuted? Its U.S. attorney, Damian Williams, addressed just that.
It's so hard to compare these things, but I think it's fair to say that by anyone's lights, this is one of the biggest financial frauds in American history.
And how important is this case to this office, Hallie? It's being the unit that's running it is overseen by Rebecca Donaleski, who led the investigation. You might remember into Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, two of Rudy Giuliani's former associates. They were charged several years ago. She ran that case with another person by the name of Nicholas Rose. Rose also involved in that case. And another case I think we're all pretty familiar with, United States versus Michael Cohen. So two senior prosecutors, just part of the team that's going to be working on this against SBF. He's got an uphill path for him as he tries to fight off these charges, Hallie.
What was also very clear from prosecutors, this is moving very quickly, and it is not over. That was the thread that they left dangling, making clear that they think Sam Bankman-Fried is personally responsible for this, but that there may be more shoes to drop.
Well, definitely. And, you mentioned those SEC civil charges that were levied today, the civil suit, mentioning a number of individuals that were high up in the company. And on top of that, Hallie, I asked specifically today about a competitor, which said that they were dumping certain assets that FTX had. Could they be under investigation? And the U.S. attorney not directly addressing them, saying he wasn't going to get into that, but saying that his office is very active in this space. That's a quote. So clearly they're focused not just on this particular company, clearly not focused just on the upper echelons of it, but also this entire industry and what's going on here, which has been rife with failures ever since Bitcoin, which traded at one point $64,000 per coin, today trading sub 18,000. It's a space that's taken an awful lot of hits. It's a space that a lot of people have lost money in. And in the case of FTX, according to prosecutors, some of these individuals might be out all of their money, at least over $2 billion here in possible customer losses, according to the SEC.
And you've got the current head of FTX, the guy who's trying to clean it up, basically saying they don't know if customers are going to get any of that money back. Some people might get nothing returned to them. I have to think, help me understand. So Sam Bankman-Fried is just hanging out in the Bahamas at this point? I mean, his lawyers are saying they're going to look at all their options, et cetera. What options does he have, Tom?
Right. Well, I mean, he could fight extradition in the Bahamas, and the legal process there is one that we're still trying to get our arms around, frankly. It is possible that the Bahamians say we're going to take a look at this, or they could certainly hear from FBI agents or members of the Justice Department to get a little bit of a better handle on the evidence in this particular case. On the other hand, a judge may determine that enough evidence exists that he should be extradited. What's unclear to me is the specific appeals process, to the extent that there might be one. I think an interesting thing, Hallie, you and I were talking about privately earlier, the U.S. Attorney's Office here thanking the DEA Special Operations Group and their aviation division. The DEA, because of the work that they do in getting people out of other countries to face charges here, talking like cartel leaders, the big-time drug guys, well, they have a fleet of jets. And based on my experience, it would appear, and based on the U.S. Attorney's comments, they probably got a jet gassed up and ready to go. They can bring him back here, and if he takes off any time before noon over the next couple of days, he's probably going to be in court here that day. Actually, directly across from me is the FBI's field office. He'll go there first, get his fingerprints, and then be in court, either this one behind me or the one next to it, to answer to a judge and determine whether or not he'll have bail. Decidedly colder here in New York, Hallie, not the upper 70s that it is in the Bahamas. 40 degrees where I'm standing.
You will need a jacket. Tom Winter, love when you blow up our private conversations when I call you and I'm like, oh my God, Tom, let's talk. So thank you. Appreciate you bringing it to our audience. You are the best, as always. Hey, some new developments late tonight as it relates to the January 6th committee. Interestingly, we are likely now to find out about criminal referrals, any criminal referrals they may make within the next week. This is sooner than we had anticipated because of a pretty last-minute date change now to this final meeting that they expect to hold. We're hearing this from the chair of the panel, Congressman Benny Thompson, talk with our NBC News team, saying that they are just about at the finish line. Garrett Hake is joining us now. So, Garrett, we laid out why, this is newsworthy, right? And that the criminal referrals piece of this could be revealed on Monday when this final meeting happens. But there's something else that's at play, too. This is a committee that, as you know more than anybody, has very carefully choreographed the public-facing piece of its investigation over the series of the last 6 months, right? Now it's like it's going to be X day. It's going to change. They want to do it, as Chairman Thompson alluded to, before folks maybe get out of town for the Christmas holidays. What's going on here?
There's a couple things happening here. I mean, as you point out, this is a committee that has tried to have a very careful press strategy. They also have this is a committee with a very chatty chairman who sometimes blows up elements of that strategy. And I think there are two pieces here. I don't know that this is necessarily the get out of town early portion, although perhaps that's a part of it. I think if you want to be cynical about it, and that's perfectly fair.
I don't want to be. I just am raising the question.
Well, I would say let's be cynical in a different way. I think it's possible this is an opportunity to get two bites at the apple in terms of a national spotlight on their findings. One much earlier in the week before people tune out for the Christmas holiday. So as you pointed out, on Wednesday, we're still going to get the final report. But it seems like we might get the news that most people care about on Monday, when the committee will meet in a business meeting, not a full hearing, but it'll probably look like it on TV. And they'll vote on finalizing the report and on these referrals. And Hallie, one other thing that we learned today, it's not just criminal referrals. I mean, we sort of knew this conceptually, but we heard it from Benny Thompson specifically, that they're talking also potentially about referrals to things like the ethics committee. So maybe that's what happens to some of these lawmakers who defied subpoenas, or even referrals to state bar associations. If you're an outside attorney, Rudy Giuliani, I'm looking at you. Right. Maybe they refer these folks to other agencies that might be able to impose different sets of consequences. And so now we find all that out Monday, and Wednesday's kind of the cleanup day of here's the sort of sum total of our semester's worth of homework. And again, two potential bites at the apple for a press strategy. That's not something the committee would ever say out loud, but it certainly is an opportunity to take advantage of a condensed news cycle at the end of the year, this close to Christmas.
Do we know if they've made any final decisions on number of criminal referrals or who specifically?
Once again, this is under discussion, and it probably feels like it will be till about Monday morning at this rate.
Sunday at midnight. Garrett Hake, if anybody's going to scoop that, I know it's going to be you. Thank you, friend. Appreciate it.
Working on it.
Some good news today for your wallet. We are all still paying a little bit more all the time, but not as fast as we used to be. In other words, prices are going up more slowly. They are going up less, just over 7% in November from a year ago. You know who was really happy about this? Wall Street. The Dow is up like 500-plus points, closed up about 100 points, if you will. Everybody's watching the Fed, right? That's why this matters, because experts say this is a signal that perhaps inflation is slowing down. So the Fed, when they meet tomorrow, they're doing this two-day meeting now, when they meet tomorrow to officially announce an interest rate hike, there's some discussion that, like, yeah, maybe they will not be as aggressive in this interest rate hike than they would have been if these numbers looked a little bit different. That's the question, right? How does the Fed navigate this interest rate hike thing to, like, keep us out of a recession, but also cool down some of the economy? Brian Chung is joining us now. It is this tightrope that we keep talking about for the Fed, right? They've got to walk it. They've got to do what everybody's favorite phrase is of the last year, a soft landing, and figure out how to make sure that they don't push the economy into a recession, but get us to a place where things are more copacetic here. How do they do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you were kind of thinking about this on a plane, I would say the seatbelt signs are on and this descent is already beginning, and you're seeing inflation coming down. It's certainly encouraging to see it's not at 9% like it was in June. It's at 7.1%. Hopefully it gets a little bit closer to the 2% that the Fed would like to see it at. But look, the question about the hard landing is essentially whether or not the cost of lowering inflation is going to be a spike in layoffs. And you're seeing in the tech sector, for example, this is happening already. And for the most part, it's been limited just to the tech sector. But as the Fed continues to hit the brakes on this economy, which they're expected to do with another interest rate hike tomorrow, could that push businesses to lay people off? That's a big question for 2023.
Another big question is, like, when is inflation going to try to get back to normal? When will things feel more normal in our budgets? President Biden was asked about this today. Here's what he said.
I hope by the end of next year we're much closer, but I can't make that prediction. I'm convinced they're not going to go up.
I mean, he can't make that prediction, but he kind of did, right? End of next year. Does that seem in line, Brian, with what experts are telling you as far as when inflation will truly ease?
Well, he also said the word hope, right? And I think we're all in the same boat, too. We all hope that prices will go down. But what's going to be very interesting is the Federal Reserve. They have a lot of purview over all of this, and they're going to have economic projections alongside their interest rate announcement tomorrow at 2 p.m. that will have expectations for where we could see inflation go. Could Fed officials see us getting back to that 2% inflation target by the end of next year? That's going to be something that we'll have to keep an eye on, and I'll be down in D.C. To see exactly what they project.
Please join us. We'll see you right next to me when you're down here in Washington, Brian. We'll pre-book you now. Thank you, pal. Appreciate it. Speaking of President Biden, right? He in the White House and Congress making some history tonight, right in the last little bit here, late today, as we're coming on the air, as he signed the Respect for Marriage Act into law in front of a big crowd on the South Lawn of the White House today. It's a new law that basically puts in place some federal protections for same-sex and interracial marriage.
A day America takes a vital step toward equality, toward liberty and justice, not just for some, but for everyone. Everyone.
Today, kind of a moment for the president, signing this bill into law a decade after he came out publicly for the first time in support of same-sex marriage as then a vice president, even before the president at the time had. Right here. Actually, I think it was in this studio, or the first Meet the Press studio on Meet the Press. Watch this.
I am absolutely comfortable with the fact that men marrying men, women marrying women, and heterosexual men and women marrying men all are entitled to the same exact rights, all the civil rights, all the civil liberties. And quite frankly, I don't see much of a distinction beyond that.
Joining us now is Mike Memoli. And, Mem, this was a moment, not just for the president, but a moment at the White House. Hundreds of people on the South Lawn, survivors of the Club Q and Pulse nightclub shootings there. Celebrity Sam Smith, for example, Cyndi Lauper doing sort of the musical piece of it. People who brought landmark cases to the Supreme Court to protect same-sex marriage. This was a big moment for the White House and a moment for the president, who has this line, and I know you'll tell me exactly what it is, about kind of the echoes of history culminating as time moves on.
As the poet Seamus Heaney wrote, hope and history rhyme here. And that's exactly what was on the mind of President Biden as he really marked this moment. There was an awful lot of joy, Hallie, on that South Lawn. The president spent another 45 minutes or so after his remarks shaking hands, greeting some of the hundreds who attended this event. And I think it really is remarkable to think of how much history has changed over the last 10 years. If you were to have asked most people 10 years ago, when then Vice President Biden made those comments expressing support for same-sex marriage, if you would have told them that in 10 years a president, Joe Biden, would be signing into law basically a repeal of the Defense of Marriage Act, which prevented same-sex marriage from occurring, I think there would have been a lot of surprise about what that meant. But that joy on the South Lawn was really tempered by the fact that if you were to ask people a year ago why this legislation was even necessary, they would have been confused. And remember what this legislation is. It's really a defensive measure here because of what happened in that Dobbs decision overturning the right to abortion nationwide. You had that concurring opinion from Justice Thomas suggesting that they might look at some other settled law, and that includes the 2015 decision, which made marriage equality the law of the land. So this legislation is an effort to get ahead of the Supreme Court if it were to overturn that protection for same-sex marriage, as well as the Griswold decision from decades earlier allowing interracial marriage to go forward, that there would need to be some protections here. And there was also, of course, a recognition from the president, not just of his role in this history that's being made now, but also the fact that much more needs to be done. Not only are LGBT rights at risk right now, but lives are at risk, and that's why you had some of those Club Q shooting victims here.
And we'll hear from them, more from them tomorrow on Capitol Hill. And, Mem, you said something important here, which is that the acknowledgement that more has to be done, because we've said something all along when we've talked about this Respect for Marriage Act, which is it is narrow but important. And both of those two things are true because it is narrow, right? It is not sweeping protections if, in fact, the court were to overturn Obergefell. It is some protections, but it's not everything that LGBTQ plus advocates want to see. There is still more on the table.
Yeah, that's right. One of the real priorities for the LGBTQ community is what's called the Equality Act. This would really prevent discrimination in the workplace and in other settings for LGBTQ persons. And you heard the president talk about this in his remarks today. As he put it, we shouldn't live in a country where you can get married in the morning but then get fired from your job for the same reason in the afternoon. And so that's why the president was committing to doing more, to continuing to lend his voice to try to get this done. And it is worth noting the unusual coalition that was behind this particular piece of legislation. The president thanking not just Senator Tammy Baldwin, he called her a hero for moving this over the finish line, other Democrats, but also that new independent senator, Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who he had a few minutes to chat with, it looked like, on the stage there, and also the dozens of Republicans, Susan Collins of Maine among them, who were also willing to cross party lines and support this legislation. It's that base of support across the aisle that the president hopes is making more further progress possible.
Mike Memoli, thank you very much, man. Appreciate you being with us. A big push in Congress today to try to, you ready for this? To try to ban TikTok in this country. That's right. Senator Marco Rubio, one of the people leading this bipartisan push, and that's important, both parties getting behind this, to basically stop all transactions from any social media company, as they say, under the influence of China, Russia, et cetera, specifically calling out TikTok in the bill. TikTok is calling out those lawmakers, though, saying it's troubling, they say, that members of Congress want this, describing it as a politically motivated push, saying it's not going to do anything to improve U.S. national security. There has been some concern, and listen, if you've watched this show, you know this because we've talked about it a lot. There's been some concern from lawmakers that, hey, maybe China can access your user data if you're on TikTok, because TikTok is owned by a Chinese parent company, ByteDance. TikTok has long resisted this, saying that the Chinese government just does not have access to that kind of thing. Sahal Kapoor joins us now. And, you said something, we were talking earlier, and you said something that I found. Can I say this? Rather adorable, because you said it would cause quite a stir in the U.S. if TikTok were banned. Dude, it would not be a stir. It would be a revolt from people who use TikTok for their news, to talk to friends, it's like their main social media app. I don't think people over the age of 45 get how big of a deal it is. And by the way, 45 is geriatric on TikTok.
Right. It would be a massive uproar. There's no doubt about it. And this bill is in its infancy at this moment, Hallie. It is.
Yeah, is it even going to get a vote, or are we just talking about something that is like a pipe dream from some of these lawmakers?
At this moment, there's no indication it's going to get a vote. Okay. It has 3 co-sponsors at this, at present. That's far from what it would need to have any shot at passing. The co-sponsors are Marco Rubio, the Republican senator, Mike Gallagher, the Republican congressman who has been chosen by Kevin McCarthy to lead the Select Committee on China for the next 2 years. Kind of gives you a sense of where their heads are at. And the Democratic congressman, Raja Krishnamurthy. It is a bipartisan, a bicameral bill. It does indicate that there's, some growth to this movement. They have the backing of some U.S. cybersecurity experts, including the FBI director, who has, elevated these concerns that it could be used for espionage and national security. But it's not going to get a vote this year. The sponsors of this bill, Senator Rubio's office, told me that they're happy it has bipartisan support. They're going to try for next year.
What's so interesting to me is, TikTok was I think it was the most downloaded app this year alone, right? It is super popular, as we've laid out. It's globally popular. Who on the Hill is, advocating to keep TikTok? In other words, for whom is that good messaging at this point? And TikTok will resist this, obviously. They already are. They're saying this is all politically motivated.
Right. For the most part, it hasn't broken through yet. I asked a number of lawmakers in both parties about this bill. They said they haven't really thought about it. They haven't really read it.
That's so interesting.
Right? And you can imagine that lawmakers who are interested in courting the youth vote would be reluctant to support a bill that would ban the most popular app for young people. It's a social network.
When I hear you say that, I think Democrats, because Democrats tend to see more support from people in a younger demographic.
Right. And if this bill gets to the point where it looks like being a serious threat to passage, I suspect you'll see some of those figures chime in and maybe try to corral votes from young people who see this as a social media, a way to connect with their friends, with their family, a source of entertainment, and also a source of news. 1 in 4 Americans under 35, according to one study, get their news regularly from TikTok, and that number has tripled just in the last couple of years.
Sahal Kapoor, as you point out, this bill still in its early stages. I know you'll follow it. Thank you very much. Coming up, Dr. Anthony Fauci, getting into all of it, into an interview with our own Andrea Mitchell today, on Elon Musk, on Twitter, on Donald Trump, on misinformation. We'll have more on that in just a second. Plus, folks in New Zealand who are 14 years old or younger will not ever be able to buy cigarettes. We're going to have more on that, the 5 things, next. Elon Musk is still very rich, but he is not the richest person on the planet anymore, at least not right now. We'll tell you who is coming up in our 5 things. But first, it is spoiler alert time. If you care about the World Cup, you probably already know the answer. And if you don't care about the World Cup, then hey, I'm just going to tell you who won today's match. Argentina beating Croatia 3-0, and now getting a trip to the World Cup final. This is a huge win, not just for Argentina, but for maybe the greatest player in soccer history, Lionel Messi, getting a chance to bring home the sport's biggest trophy for the first time ever. Argentina will get whoever wins between Morocco and France tomorrow in the final. Here's Megan Fitzgerald in Qatar with more.
Hallie, Argentina is heading to the finals. It was 3-0 win over Croatia. And look, both teams came out aggressive at the start of the game. It wasn't until about 34 minutes into the first half that we saw a point on the board. It was a penalty kick taken by Lionel Messi, sinking the ball in the right-hand corner of the net. A couple minutes later, another goal for Argentina, 2-0 going into the half. Then, of course, they shut the game down with another goal, 3-0 Argentina. Fans are just beside themselves. Take a listen. So how are you guys feeling right now? Argentina pulled off this win.
We're really happy and enthusiastic.
We are so happy to see Messi for the last World Cup in his life.
Did you ever doubt that Argentina would win this game?
No, I never doubted. I always thought Messi can do it, and he's amazing. And I hope that they win the World Cup.
How do you feel that Argentina won?
So happy.
I am expecting that Argentina will be against Morocco.
Now, of course, Argentina will face off against the winner of tomorrow night's game between France and Morocco. A historic face-off for Morocco, the first African nation to advance to the semifinals. All eyes on that game. And then, of course, the finals are on Sunday. Hallie?
Our thanks to Megan Fitzgerald for that. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, legendary college football coach Mike Leach has died at the age of 61. Mississippi State University says it happened from complications from a heart condition. Leach was in his 3rd season as head coach there, but his career lasted some 2 decades. He really revolutionized the game, popularizing that pass-heavy air raid offense. Number 2, New Zealand passed a law today banning younger people from buying cigarettes. The country's basically trying to phase out smoking tobacco altogether by not letting it be sold to anybody born on or after January 1st, 2009. It basically means the minimum age for buying cigarettes is just going to keep going up and up and up. Right now, you have to be at least 18 years old to buy cigarettes, but like in 10 years, you'd have to be 28, etc. The law does not affect vaping, by the way. Number 3, the oldest member of BTS has started his 18 months of mandatory military service today. That's right, Jin shaved his head, reported to a boot camp near the South Korean border. He's there for basic training. It means that BTS, I mean, listen, huge, right? BTS is on hiatus right now. The rest of Jin's bandmates there are expected to enlist in the years to come. Number 4, take a walk outside tonight if you can, because the strongest meteor shower of the year is hitting its peak. It's known as the Geminids, and under the best conditions, you can see like 100 shooting stars every hour, astronomers say. Try to find a place that's away from bright city lights. Hope there's not a lot of clouds. You might have a good shot tomorrow if you happen to be busy with your holiday parties tonight. Number 5, Elon Musk, no longer the richest person in the world, according to Forbes. Tesla shares closed down yesterday. They've lost a lot of value this year. So who is on top now? For now, at least, Bernard Arnault, the CEO and chairman of LVMH, that big French luxury brand. Let's talk about Dr. Anthony Fauci, because he's talking with us, telling us how he really feels about Elon Musk and Twitter today, after Musk tweeted Fauci should be prosecuted. You have the doctor telling our own Andrea Mitchell he thinks Twitter has kind of gone bananas. Listen.
How do you feel when someone with that big a megaphone labels you a criminal?
Well, to be honest with you, Andrea, I don't pay attention to that. I mean, yeah, he has a big megaphone, but I mean, the Twitter sphere as it is has really gone berserk lately. It's got to become almost a cesspool of misinformation.
Dr. Fauci says he chalks a lot of this up to the polarization around the pandemic and around politics. Joining us now is Andrea Mitchell. And what's so interesting is Fauci, to a lot of people, has become the face of some of the politicization of the pandemic, despite his many, many years, his 4 decades in public service. He was really clear with you, though, you know, saying he doesn't listen to Elon Musk. He doesn't get on Twitter. He just doesn't do that kind of thing.
Yes, and the fact that this has become so polarized is, first of all, it's cost lives. I mean, he made that clear, that people have died because of the misinformation and also because of the polarization where people have not gotten vaccinated, not only for COVID, but now are not getting vaccinated for the flu. The flu shot did not used to be controversial.
Right.
Our kids, all of us, got vaccinated when we went to school. Right. You have to be vaccinated to go to kindergarten. And now soldiers don't want to be vaccinated. So the polarization on vaccines, and masks has led to people dying. And he sees that as something that really caused a public health emergency unlike anything he'd experienced. He's been in public service for nearly 60 years.
He also, you mentioned misinformation. This is something that he had to take on very directly with his then boss, the President of the United States, when Donald Trump was in the White House.
And he talked about that. He talked about the fact that, I asked him about standing next to Donald Trump when Donald Trump is pushing hydroxychloroquine and things like that. And this is what he had to say.
I felt I just had to speak up against and contradict what he said, not only for my own professional and personal integrity, but my responsibility to the American public when you hear things being said that are just not true. I didn't enjoy that at all. I just felt very uncomfortable, but I had to do it.
Hallie, he has advised 7 American presidents going back to Ronald Reagan. So Ronald Reagan up and through everyone to Joe Biden. And never before Donald Trump, did he have to speak up against the President of the United States. He worked really closely with George W. Bush on HIV/AIDS and on the PEPFAR program that Bush initiated, which saved 20 million lives so far, just in Africa and other places around the world. AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis. He got the Medal of Freedom from from George W. Bush.
He's been through.
And now
really
he's living under
stuff.
death threats. Yeah. His children, his wife have had death threats. Security, obviously, that comes with that. And so he is leaving government now at the end of the year. Will do other things. He's not retiring. He'll be 82 on Christmas Eve.
What is a random Tuesday in February going to look like for him then?
I think it's going to be doing a lot of writing and looking for his next adventure. He is certainly not stepping back.
Andrea Mitchell, thank you so much. Great interview. We're so glad to have you break it down for us here on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, another NBC News exclusive, a new plan by the Biden administration to limit how many people could qualify for asylum at the southern border. And it may sound shockingly familiar to you. We're going to explain. Plus, that huge new breakthrough on energy today that could change the way we power our homes, our cars. We're going to break it down for you in the aptly named Breakdown in a sec. A really lovely reunion between man and man's best friend coming up in the local. But first, NBC News exclusively learning about a new plan by the Biden administration that would cut the number of people who could qualify for asylum at the southern border. That's where Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is today near El Paso, where more than 1,000 migrants, mostly from Nicaragua, crossed the border Sunday night. Look at this video. This is from our colleagues over at Telemundo. They talk with some of the people there about how relieved they were to be able to make it to the U.S.
De tanto, esperamos estar bien ya, por fin. Después de ser secuestrados, aguantar hambre, esperamos estar mejor.
So let's talk then about this plan to try to handle the number of migrants who are eligible for asylum, this surge. 4 sources familiar with it tell our Julia Ainsley that the U.S. would create some new but narrow pathways for asylum seekers. But migrants would have to prove that they faced torture in their home countries or got denied asylum somewhere else. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it kind of is. From this guy, Stephen Miller, the hardline immigration advisor for former President Trump, somebody who is no stranger, of course, to controversial policies. Julia is with us now. You wouldn't think of Stephen Miller when you think of, like, something that the Biden administration is doing on immigration. You know, he was known for being this real hardliner in the Trump administration, and now here you have this. Explain to us the Stephen Miller of it all.
A lot of it has to do with those videos that we just saw, Hallie. This explains where this administration is when it comes to immigration. These COVID-19 restrictions that started in March of 2020 are about to lift next week unless another court intervenes, and they're likely to see a record migrant surge of as many as 10,000 a day. We've never seen anything like that before. No matter which way you look at it, it's a humanitarian crisis. It could overwhelm shelters, people sleeping on the streets. It's not something the Biden administration wants on their watch, and they're trying to come up with solutions to deter migration. This is a pretty strong one, though, and there are actually a lot of people within the administration who are upset about this and say that it will likely be enjoined by courts, just as that Stephen Miller policy was, and that they need to come up with long-term solutions, either working with Congress or getting more manpower at the border. Of course, the Congress thing does seem like a moonshot, getting more manpower at the border, more funding, but that basically just trying to curb the numbers who can claim asylum isn't going to do enough. But that's the plan as of now, because they're afraid so many people will be forced or think that they should take that dangerous journey to come here. And so they're trying to deter that and have more people apply in their home country. But there's still, I've heard it's like slamming a door and cracking a window. There won't be nearly as many pathways to come here.
What's so interesting about this is that it feels like kind of a scramble. You're reporting there were like a half dozen meetings this weekend alone, right? Just about this.
Yeah, that's right. That's a DHS and the White House. DHS is very clear to say, hey, this isn't just us coming up with this policy.
Interagency, right?
Interagency, Biden administration, a lot of it being driven by the White House, by the National Security Council, who are looking at these numbers and are worried about what might come next. And we do know, even though a lot's under consideration, they're already at the point of coming up with new employee training so that asylum officers will know about these new eligibility requirements when they interview migrants.
What is the pressure that Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is under? Because our colleague Jacob Soboroff sat down with him this week, and he didn't exactly deny it, right, that this was in the works when Jacob asked, but you now have House Republicans today calling for Mayorkas to be impeached, for example.
Yeah, that's right. Now, what I hear is that he's going to stay the course so long as his administration, as the White House, backs him up. He's not caving to this pressure that you see from people like Kevin McCarthy.
Which has been building and building and building.
For a long time. And we'll keep an eye on that, of course. But from what I hear, he wants to stay the course. There aren't a lot of other contenders for that job. It's not a very popular one to take. But he is certainly under pressure. And you could see that he did not deny that. He said that asylum will remain a crown jewel of the United States. It's something he's always said. His own parents fled Cuba. But he is definitely open, and it's obvious by that interview, he's open to the idea of some pretty serious policies we would have never been talking about when Biden first took office.
Julia Ainsley, thank you for that great reporting. Appreciate it. So today, a huge new announcement from top scientists in this country that they've created something successfully, ignition on a nuclear fusion reaction. Wait, please. If you're like, put that into plain English for me, the good thing is, we're about to. I want to share with you what the Energy Secretary had to say about this. First, to frame it is why this is such a big deal. Watch.
This is one of the most impressive scientific feats of the 21st century. It would be like adding a power drill to our toolbox in building this clean energy economy.
The National Ignition Facility at this Lawrence Livermore National Lab in California used these huge lasers for the discovery. And again, why it matters, it could get us off of fossil fuels altogether. Again, plain English, right? How does this actually work? How do you explain this to people in your life if they're like me and at breakfast they're like, well, wait a second, Hallie, how does this happen? This is for you. Watch. A really sunny day. It's hot and bright. That's thanks to a process that happens deep inside the sun called nuclear fusion.
Nuclear fusion is when you take really light elements and smash them together really hard to create heavier elements. And in that process, there is a little bit release of energy. Our sun does nuclear fusion every single day, and that's how the sun powers itself.
All right, it works like this. Two hydrogen atoms moving really fast smash together. And when they do, the reaction creates not just another element, helium, but energy. So if this happens all the time in stars, why is our ability to do the same thing here on Earth such a big deal? Creating energy like this does not create carbon. So experts say it opens the door to maybe ending the world's dependence on fossil fuels. This whole process is called nuclear fusion. And its sibling, basically the reverse, is nuclear fission. That's how we create nuclear bombs now and nuclear energy. But creating energy that way leaves behind radioactive waste. Plus, there's the risk of potential disasters, like what we've seen at Chernobyl or Fukushima.
With fusion, it's the complete opposite. You just hit one switch and the whole thing shuts off, and that's it.
So nuclear fusion is a big deal, but it comes with a catch, and it's a big one. This is not going to be a snap to scale up. A bunch of really smart people in a lab with humongous special lasers made this happen for a split second this time after decades of work and billions of dollars. To get from that to something you can actually use when you flip a light switch, experts say that is still decades away.
The amount of time it will take to generate nuclear fusion as a power source is very, very, very long. There's still so much work to do.
So much work to do indeed. Perhaps not the immediate solution for the climate crisis, but something to work towards. Coming up here on the show, a sailboat missing with 2 men on board somewhere off the East Coast. The Coast Guard now asking for the public's help with the search. And Jay Leno speaking exclusively with our own Hoda Kotb about that horrible garage gas fire. We've got that first piece of the interview coming up for you next. Tonight, we're bringing you the first look at Hoda Kotb's exclusive conversation with Jay Leno in his first on-camera interview since that accident in his garage that sent him to the hospital badly burned. Leno tells Hoda exactly what happened on that day. Listen.
Tell me what happened that day.
Well, it was a 1907 white steam car. The fuel line was clogged, so I was underneath it trying to clog, and I said, blow some air through the line. And suddenly, boom, I got a face full of gas. And then the pilot light jumped and my face caught on fire. And I said to my friend, I said, Dave, I'm on fire. And then, oh my God, Dave, my friend, pulled me out and jumped on top of me and kind of smothered the fire.
You can hear more of Hoda's interview with Jay Leno tomorrow morning. I'm sure a lot of folks are eager to see it, eager and glad to see that he seems to be doing well tomorrow morning on the Today Show, wherever you watch your local NBC station. Speaking of NBC News, you know we cover hundreds of stories every day, and because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Western Bureau, it's been a month since 4 Idaho college students were killed in their off-campus home. Moscow police say they've spent hours going through tips over the past few days, with the focus still on a white Hyundai seen in the area right around the time of the murders. Police are really keeping pretty tight-lipped about this. A lot of info staying close to the vest. They haven't named a suspect or said if they've found a murder weapon yet. From our Northeast Bureau, the U.S. Coast Guard is searching for a missing sailboat with 2 men on board. They're asking for people's help to try to find them. The boat left from New Jersey late last month, headed toward Florida. But these men have not been heard from since they left North Carolina a week and a half ago. From our Southeast Bureau, check out this video. A Texas man reunited with his dog more than 7 years after the little pup went missing. Animal Services found Jazzy abandoned in a motel in Florida. They saw that it had a microchip, so they managed to track down the owner. As you see on your screen, brought his dog home. He says Jazzy ran away from his home in Fort Worth during July 4th fireworks 7 years ago. Coming up, we'll take you back to some breaking news on potential tornadoes touching down in the south. We're going to take you live to Texas when we come back. I want to take you back now to those reports of dangerous weather down south with really intense storms creating a bunch of damage in the area. Look at what's happening inside Texas in just the last little bit. This person ended up driving. Do you see that right by your tornado? It's kind of right by that highway sign there. You can see how intense it is. More tornadoes are expected to hit tonight as well. You know who's seeing this on the ground firsthand, or at least scenes from some of the destruction? Morgan Chesky, who's in Grapevine, Texas, just outside Dallas. He's joining us live now. Morgan, it's visible behind you. Twisted metal, the wreckage of what once was thanks to these storms.
Yeah, Hallie, you're absolutely right. And, you know, late December or November tornadoes are not unheard of, but this was certainly a shock to a lot of folks around 9 this morning. That is when people who live in this area tell us this storm struck. They started to hear the wind pick up. The owner of this car wash says that he was in his house just about 2 blocks away when he started hearing debris hit his home. He realized something was incredibly wrong. Fortunately, his home untouched, just a testament to the unpredictable nature of these storms. This car wash, however, he says is a total loss. And what's so interesting about this storm, Hallie, is that it leaves the wreckage you see behind me and then seems to kind of skip throughout this entire area, hitting one building, leaving another untouched. This is one of a handful of reported tornadoes that took place earlier today. We do know the National Weather Service expected to have a full report out on the damage and the power of these tornadoes. But as you mentioned, the threat far from over right now. The good news is that at least here in North Texas, people should be in the clear tonight. But we do know that in the southeast and the Gulf Coast regions, this same massive system could potentially spawn even more tornadoes. And the bad news there, Hallie, is that if they do, it would likely happen under cover of nightfall. And studies have shown, the pure numbers are that nighttime tornadoes about 2.5 times deadlier than storms that happen during the day. So people still absolutely need to be taking this weather system very seriously. As for the folks here in Grapevine, Texas, power remains out, at least for this surrounding area, and there's no timeline on when that's going to be restored here. Hallie?
You can see the people even working behind you as you speak, as you say, Morgan. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you being down there on the ground. That does it for us this hour. Another busy one right here on NBC News Now. We're going to have more for you here tomorrow, same time, same place. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.